There you go. We're live.
All right. Let's see what happens.
Let's see how many people get in. It's 3 to 8. We are live from. We need music in the background.
I know. An international audience.
There you go. That's going to be fun. Some people want to see how we do it because they like Marco. He's not going to attend because he has classes. Marco Loyola. So,
Yeah.
but he told me I may be able to do one. Oh, if we have, no, those are 7 people are connected. There you go.
Hey. Hi, everybody.
Hey, we have 7 people there. Hello, hello. And we are live. Let's wait for some more people to get ready. 10 people. I'm counting. That's a good number. We're going to start with 10.
That number's stressful. We see it keep going up or keep going down.
Yeah, we will see if they get bored and then it goes down. Then people, there you go. They're saying hello. DD is saying hello over there. There you go. There you go. So I know Didi. Didi is a nice teacher. She is living in the United States right now. She moved there because she found love in Florida. There you go. Well, I shouldn't be sharing personal details of attendees, right? Arturo Field is here too. There you go.
Hi, Arturo and Didi.
There you go. Liliana. Okay, this is going well. We have 10 people ready. And it's 1 to 8. So we are okay.
No, I'm really curious if
Cynthia from Peru.
Hi, Cynthia.
We're 13. Only with 4 people said hello. So come on, don't be shy. Just share the love.
Everyone's learning the technology just like us.
Like what? Don't say that. Don't say that. Liliana from Peru too. There you go. That's Dinah, Gabriela. Ooh. So let's see how many people. Let's give people 5 minutes, and then we can start. Let's get ready for that. And thank you for the very punctual people. Oh, hey, we went up to 18 people connected. That's this is getting wow. People. Eva there, Lisbeth from Arequipa, Janet from Peru, Janet Matos. Okay, there you go. Jenny.
This is
okay.
fun.
I like this. We should do this more often, right?
That's the one thing. Not to get started too quick, but it's been really fun to see all the different teacher communities pop up over the internet and people just having conversations and getting together. You're in your house all day and you kind of forget to just reach out and talk to people. And it's been really neat to see the communities of teachers, sharing stories and offering advice and suggestions to one another.
There you go. Yeah, that's really, really nice. And we have Paola saying hi, Jenny from Majes. Yeah, and that is something that I have been talking to teachers. It's not bad to ask for help. So we should reach, and it saves a lot of time. Because you can discover things on your own, but if you actually ask somebody that have been through that path before, it will save a lot of time.
For sure.
And a lot of suffering too. Okay, 23 people there. I like this. So for the people that are just connecting, this is kind of the format that we're going to have. This kind of webinar is like a webinar slash interview. Wow, from Yankee. There you go. Yankee is a small town in Arequipa. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Yankee is far from the city itself, but and really nice to have. Well, here watching the problematic. Okay, there you go. Okay, so I was saying it's 8:03, so let's start by describing what we're going to do, and then we go for it. This format is more like an interview, a chat. Okay, I'm going to ask some questions to Jeff. Jeff is going to ask maybe some questions to me. We're going to share our experience. We're going to compare how it is going. He's from Ohio. Well, he works in Ohio. So we will see how different or how similar it is, this situation of having to work online and how they are calling you that it teleteaching. So if you have a question at any time, type it, put it there. We will try to answer as many questions as we can. If we run out of time, because it will probably go for an hour, tops, 45 minutes an hour, and we may have another session. Who knows? Maybe invite other guests. So, being 8:04, I think it's time to introduce Mr. Jeff Kuhn. That is the right pronunciation.
Kuhn, yeah.
Kuhn, okay. And he works at the Ohio University. Well, it's very difficult for me to actually tell you exactly what he does.
It's hard for me to tell people what I do.
Yeah, but I'm going to read the official information. Okay. Jeff serves a split appointment at Ohio University, working for the Office of Instructional Innovation and in the Games Research and Immersive Design Lab. Okay. So, and then he has a master's in linguistics and a PhD in educational technology. And his dissertation explored the problem solving and distributed cognition of online gamers. And his subsequent research has investigated human behavior in digital environments. And now we are completely immersed in digital environments to teach. Now, the course that he has taught is virtual reality, critical analysis and evaluation, special topics in communication, building virtual worlds, virtual reality project development. So, just to be honest, I haven't heard those kind of subjects or courses here. So if you just can explain in simple language what is actually.
Yeah, I think for the context of this talk, a really great place to focus is, so I work for my university's Office of Instructional Innovation, and I'm one of the instructional designers at my university. And really what we do on a day-to-day basis in that capacity is help teachers design and then build classes for either fully online teaching where they have zero direct interaction with their students, or kind of hybrid classes where maybe half the content is delivered digitally and half of it is delivered face to face. So working with teachers to kind of figure out what are the best practices for using these digital tools. And last year that was kind of easy because we were all working at a slow pace. My hair was brown a month ago, I'll tell you that, audience. But what happened in early March was suddenly we had to put our entire university online. So all of our classes had to go online. And so we've been working with teachers with lots of online teaching experience who needed just a little bit of help. And we've been working with teachers with zero online teaching experience who barely used email. And so kind of working through how to help everybody put classes online is kind of the quick, long answer to your question.
Okay, so basically you are the Batman of the university right now.
We've been busy. We really were in big demand the last month, kind of getting things going. And for us, it was really challenging because we saw in early March that maybe there was a chance that classes would have to go online, and we started having this discussion. And then when our state government here in Ohio made the decision to close schools, the university started kind of following that and deciding. So we had our spring break, so we had a little bit of time off. So we had 1 week, and we kind of realized that the following week we'd have to be purely online. Well, they extended our break to 2 weeks, so we had 2 weeks to move every university course online and figure out, best practices for teachers. That's kind of the situation we're in. Our public schools are closed, so we have no students in K through 12 education right now, and all of our universities are also closed. So we have no university students attending classes at all at the moment. So what are things like in Peru right now, Jota?
Yeah, pretty much the same. The only difference that we speak Spanish, I think. Uh, Universities are closed. They are trying to have some classes online. Schools are closed. Some private schools already started with internet lessons. Teachers have been struggling to design that class. So the first step, it was obviously they were trying to simulate what they did in an actual like face-to-face class, and there was a lot of workload. Then we also have the issue that lots of our students, they don't have access to good internet quality, or even they don't have access to a computer. So the government has started a program, and they are having TV shows up to teach on TV
Oh, wow.
and using the radio too. But still, they need some. So what I was telling teachers is good to have content, but the most important thing is to provide feedback like that, to walk with the student and see how they are doing. And that is one of the things that I have checked, that we struggle, because we actually need to see which resources do we have to do that.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna try. So Hota and I have been putting this webinar together, and we've been working with this new set of technology here with Webinar Jam. So some of it we're not quite familiar with, but we're trying it out. And so I'm gonna try posting an image, and let's see if it lets me do that. Because I'd like to share a really great resource with everybody. We'll test this out.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see.
So that is one thing that teachers should learn, that they have to mess things up in order to learn.
Right. So I'm going to put this up. There's a really great article out there. I'll put the link up there too, so everyone can read the article by Daniel Stanford, and he talks really about the bandwidth matrix that he calls it. And I really like this idea to share with everyone. I'm going to put that up there. See if it's available. It says it's sharing, and he really kind of discusses thinking about your content and saying, look, we've got kind of 4 sections of materials. We have what's called like your high bandwidth materials. So if you've got video conferencing, like what we're doing now, that takes a lot of internet bandwidth. If I record a video and upload it to share with my students, for my students to stream that or download that, it also takes a lot of bandwidth. And if you kind of compare them this way, if we're doing a video conference like this, the immediacy is very quick. We get a lot of very back and forth interaction. If I upload a video and you watch it, there's not a lot of intimacy or interaction, as he calls it. And so he really, kind of lays us out really well of starting with high bandwidth, low bandwidth, low interaction or high interaction, and sort of categorizing your materials there. And I really think it's a great place to start. Think about your classroom activities and say, what can I kind of keep based on where my students fit in the bandwidth, and then how much interaction I want my students to have. I wonder did that file come through?
I don't know. I can see it in files. If you go to files there, it says
Yeah,
bandwidth matrix.
yeah, that's the one. And I'll put the website in the chat as well. And so, and I really think I've often, when I start with teachers, I say the two most important things is manage your expectations and communicate, communicate, communicate. And that's where we really began with our faculty. And we said, look, um, there are things that you really like to do in your class that just may not be possible this time. My class personally, I had a class this semester where we were write 3 papers and do a group presentation. And I had to cut the third paper. I said, it's just not going to happen. And my group project went down to an individual project. So kind of thinking about really taking a hard look at your material and say, your class learning objectives. If an activity doesn't hit my objectives really well, maybe it's time to cut it because it's just going to be challenging. We've told our faculty as well. We have students who aren't in class. They might be helping family. They might be helping sick members of their family. They might be helping people around them. They might be sick themselves. And so suddenly their ability to spend a lot of time in class also is challenging. So again, thinking about maybe dialing back, the amount of material you're going to work with in a class in order to make sure that people just have the time. Yeah.
Okay, and so you mentioned that you changed well, part of well, you pretty much cut your your program. So the question is, um, we won't be able to cover as much material in an online class.
Yeah. So one of the recommendations that I've really kind of always stuck with is, when you're thinking about an online class, it's almost better to think in weeks, not days. When we design classes with faculty, we'll often say, really think about, you know, maybe all of your homework assignments that you have are due 11:59 p.m. on a Sunday night, because you might have a student who can get all their work done on Monday or Tuesday, but another student isn't going to be able to work on things until Friday. So is there a way to think about your class as being, 1 week's worth of content, and students have the entire week to turn it in? Even if you do synchronous material, maybe you do a web conference with your students on Tuesday and Thursday, can you still give them that time to work on things? One of the big challenges with teaching online that I've always found is the ability to interact with our students is really limited. When we're in the classroom, it's very easy to look at a student and say, Ricardo, you look a little confused. Do you have any questions? But online, we can't see our students as much anymore. And a lot of times there's that silence where our students maybe aren't asking questions or aren't interacting. And so it can be difficult to know if everybody is staying on schedule, if anyone's falling behind. And so giving students a little more time to complete all the activities will usually really help with that. And part of that is communicate. Lots of communication from you on a regular basis. You think, okay, Monday mornings, I'm going to send out a checklist. Here's our checklist, everything we want to get done this week. So someone that people can look at. And then, maybe there's a follow-up email on Thursday morning that kind of, here's what we talked about at the beginning of the week. Here's what we need to do for the end of the week. And then, sort of a end of the week summary that lets everyone know what they got done for the week and what they can look forward to next week.
Nice. And I think especially school teachers that are attending this webinar would find that very interesting, because something that has been going on is that they are the content that it is being given to students, it's in a day-to-day basis. And in some cases, they have set deadlines for that same day or for the next day. And it has been stressful for the students and for the parents. So,
Yeah,
and
I think we often forget that our students are in these challenging situations, but so are we. And so, it can be hard for us to get grading done one night and be ready for the next day. And that's something that we've really stressed with our faculty is, we've just said, look, things are different. Well, if I don't meet these learning objectives this semester, what's going to happen? It's like, we don't know. We really don't know. And that's why we've sort of developed this mantra. We say, just keep teaching. Don't worry about, you know, all the little things that you usually do in the day-to-day class. Just keep teaching. Make sure your students have um, things that they can kind of plan on and work towards. But also, what we found really interesting about this with the keep teaching and keep communicating is the students miss talking to their teacher and their fellow classmates. It's been interesting. We've had faculty tell us they're setting up office hours for the students to come in and ask questions about assignments or homework. And the students just want to come in and talk about what movie they just watched or what book you're reading. They just want to talk to people and get that normalcy back. And so even, providing your students a space in your online class mode just to talk about anything, whether it's just like an open conversation hour, a chance to just kind of socialize a little bit, can be really helpful to make them feel relaxed and make them feel like everything's okay.
okay. So, and that is the other thing that teachers have been asking a lot. Is they have been like the interaction they have that you mentioned is very limited. But what can we actually do to? Well, you mentioned one thing, like you have office hours to talk to them. I guess it's more in an individual thing or even in small groups, rather than with the whole class. So, what other things can we do to manage that, like that, increase that interaction with our students?
And I think, if you go back to this idea of the high bandwidth, low bandwidth thing, think about if there's ways to kind of put group work into sort of the low bandwidth, low interaction space. So can you set up like a discussion board or a chat group for the students? So, um, or email even. Email's kind of slow. It's kind of old fashioned, but even just having a place where, I can get the material, but then I have more time to respond to it. So having group work done in sort of these discussion board formats, email based formats, WhatsApp or whatever social messaging you may use. GroupMe is another popular one that's come up lately. Um, One of the nice things too about a lot of this technology is many of the companies are now offering their services for free or having access. A great example, like Skype. Now you can set up a call and just share a link with people, and they can come in with no account.
Yeah, because they didn't have that before.
Zoom has made a lot of their features available in their web conferencing tools. So if you can find ways to sort of leverage these tools that are for free right now or are open at the moment. I know Microsoft Teams, I believe, is also has some limited availability for people to use. And even just setting up a space for students to interact. And something about that too is shifting some of the assignments into new types of assignments. So maybe students are supposed to write an essay. Um, maybe you can have them write a movie screenplay, which, again, it's a little looser, a little more fun, a little more interactive. Instead of having them write an essay, if you have students who love video games, maybe they could write a review of that video game, something that's a little more informal, that pulls in their interest in ways they're kind of keeping themselves occupied, um, versus something that's a little more academic where they may need help finding sources or looking for information that it could be challenging to do without a teacher's direct assistance.
Okay, so we have to really think on how we design the assignments and consider like the
That's what I
factor
want to
that,
hear from you though, because you've always got great ideas.
well, it's it's crazy ideas that sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, but I have tested out things. So yeah, it's funny that you mentioned some of the things that you mentioned. So I'm taking notes because I'm going to do a video summary of this. But some things that you mentioned, it's funny how they connect to what I was telling teachers a lot is which is this agile type of thing to teach in education. And one of the things that it mentioned is that you have to prioritize. Um, uh, how was it? It has to prioritize the learning process rather than measuring the learning. And that is what you mentioned with teachers. What is going to happen if we don't cover? I really don't know how much they have learned, but you're actually your mantra is just keep teaching, and but it has to be really good teaching. So
Right.
so it's basically one thing. The other thing that you mentioned, weak things that you plan like that, in Agile is called sprints, which is you are not running a marathon in a sprint, and you have a clear objective that is going to be uh, achieved in 1 or maybe 2 weeks, and the students know that in the end of those 2 weeks what they have to do. So it's really nice to see that, to listen that everything is connected. Now you mentioned Zoom, and something that I just discovered, like I haven't used it, but I just discovered is the breakout groups. I think it's called
Yeah.
this feature. Some teachers were asking about how do I work in groups when I have a video call with 20 students, for example. And Zoom has this feature in which you can, in right there when you will have the session, you can have breakout rooms. So you can divide the students in groups of 5, and they will be split there. They can talk to each other in those groups, and you can monitor them, and then you can put them back together as a class. Honestly, I haven't checked that out like with 20 students, but it seems to be one of the coolest features of Zoom, and teachers are asking for that feature in other, like in Google Meet, in Microsoft Teams. But as far as I know, only Zoom has that.
I don't know of any others, and our faculty have really been demanding that. And it's a great way, think about Zoom's breakout rooms, and taking a flipped classroom approach to your material. And if you're not familiar with a flipped classroom, the general idea is that in a traditional classroom, we cover a lecture of sorts. We have the lecture, and then students do their homework assignments. In a flipped classroom, you would record a lecture and the students would watch it. And then when they come to class, they would do the homework. So material that you would normally do for homework, textbook activities or, writing exercises, they would actually do in the class. And so that can be a great way to think about it. Online classes. I need to teach my students about this particular grammar structure. So I'm going to record that video and post it. And, maybe I post it Monday morning and students have until Thursday to watch it. And then we do a live session on, Thursday, Friday, perhaps, and students come with that knowledge. And then that's when you do the activities together. So you work through a workbook exercise together as a group, and you put students in a breakout room in Zoom. Say, okay, you 3 students go to that breakout room, check your answers together, come up with questions you have about the material, and then let's review the answers and discuss as a group. So that's been a really great approach that can really help, is the flipped classroom model there. It looks like Arturo posted a YouTube.
Yeah, they have said that Canvas also has that option, breakout rooms during a conference. I think Canvas is connected with, what is the name of this conference? Blue Button, something like that. They use that integrated, as far as I know. And yeah, the breakout rooms is really useful. And what I normally do, well, not online, when I always work with that concept of of more than groups, teams, is that cheating time that you get your students during the session, because if they actually didn't understand something of the video or the what we call the pre-work, they have the chance to discuss with their team members and see how much they have learned. or maybe you actually didn't watch the video, but your classmates can actually help you understand what you're supposed to know. We connected a little bit with game mechanics from video games, so it becomes a little bit of helping your team to know all the content, and then we evaluate that in a very friendly way. So that is also something that we have been including in online classes. There you go. They told us big blue button is the. It's I don't know. They should be doing the webinar. Why are we talking and they are just chatting? I don't know.
Yeah, and this is the point I really want to stress, and I love so much about these sorts of things is please share your experiences, because we're all in this together. I mean, I know Hot and I are here chatting, but you've been through this too, and I'm sure everyone in the audience has some great ideas. And if we can just reinforce these communities of practice that we all have something to share and offer and trade off of one another, makes it really helpful. So like Eva and Arturo and Miguel, sharing their ideas is fantastic.
Yeah, I think, and that is great, like creating a real teachers community, like really helping each other. And as I mentioned before, it's the easiest and fastest way to learn through this. Otherwise, we're going to take a lot of time making mistakes, which is good. You learn from that. But there are people that have already been there and they can help. So it's not bad if you actually reach and ask for help. Now, I don't know. I have some difficult questions, but I don't know if you have anything like a best practice to share or something else before I ask you some questions.
I always, I really like to say, as you start to, move classes online, and, maybe you're finishing up some material now and you're thinking about the next semester. Here at our university, we're switching now to summer classes completely online. So we're getting this chance to redesign our classes. And we always say, first thing to do is pull out your course schedule and your syllabus and really just review what's there and what you think is achievable, and ask those hard questions. What could be rescheduled? What might be too resource intensive for students? And a great thing to do at the beginning of the semester or beginning of your class time is send out a brief quiz that just polls students on what technology do they have access to, how much reliable internet access do they have, and what kind of times do they generally have to work on material. And that kind of data can be really helpful as you start to set up your class. And then from there, revise your syllabus. A student survey asking those kind of important questions, compare it against your current schedule, and then make those kind of decisions and really set your expectations for the class. And then as I like to say there earlier, communicate. The more you can kind of communicate with the students about what's expected of them, it'll really kind of help them better understand the course's approach and what they need to really be looking out for moving forward. If it's something they can handle, gives them plenty of chances to interact with you and ask questions as well.
Okay, we have people that have problems with the connection. I don't know if it is everybody or are we just talking and nobody's listening well. Well, it's the first person that says so. I don't know. Our so far, if somebody has problems with the connection, apart from Leslie, please put it there so we can see if we can switch to another connection or something.
Yeah.
But if not, it's probably internet connection like where you are. So just let us know, okay? Now, the difficult questions actually don't come from teachers. Okay. So I interview like more than pretty much around 50 students, in English students, and they were telling me they say that the chat is not seen. Oh, that's weird. Maybe some people are doing it privately. Okay, but I can see your questions. Don't worry, I can see the chat. They were saying that they actually don't know if they have learned.
Yeah, it can be. Students may switch to online classes because they see them as being easier. They seem being a less intensive, so that can be a challenge.
Yeah, and that is something else that they mentioned, that yeah, I'm going to enroll because I will pass.
Yeah,
But then the others mentioned that they exactly what they were saying is like, I know that I have learned because I can do the homework, but that's not necessarily true. So in terms of assessing students, is there anything that you can recommend we do as teachers?
I, ooh, you know,
Oh, I told
I,
you, the students are the worst.
it's tough. I have lots of opinions about assessment, and one of the things that I really am wondering about is, will this situation push assessment forward in a good way? And I think one of the challenges is standardized testing. The way we typically think about a test really doesn't work well in an online format. If you give me a multiple choice, well, I'll just grab my phone and Hot and I can text back and forth and we can share answers. It's going to be very easy to cheat. And so, thinking about ways to change up that assessment style and go for more, you know, summative assessments. Whether that's something as simple as like a reflective essay about what students have learned. Other great things that I've seen faculty come up with is they'll have a traditional exam, but then for those questions on the exam, students have to do a short answer that identifies where in their textbook or where in their course related sources that material comes from. So, answer the question and then tell me how you know that based on the material we've covered in class, which I thought is a really brilliant idea. Another thing I've seen is as students answer the question, it's a multiple choice question, um, and faculty have them answer why they think this information will be important in the future. Um, why do I need to know this grammar? Right. Well, here's why I need to know it. So making students explain where that information comes from. Yeah, as Dee Dee's saying, you make them read no matter what. In order to answer the test, um, so students finish a test and then they pick one question that was difficult and they write about why it was difficult for them to answer it, or one that was perhaps easier for them to answer and why it was easier for them to answer. So really, instead of just knowing information, which Hot and I could text it back and forth and share that answer, I have to reflect on how is this question important to me? How do I know this? What value is it going to have for me in the future? Which I think has been a really creative way for us to take standardized tests, multiple choice tests, things like that, and spin them in a new way. Um,
Yeah, that is true. So assessment is going to change. Right now, like if you check most of the virtual tools for assessment, they go for filling the gaps, multiple choice. So
right.
that's why teachers right now are just struggling to see how they're going to assess. Um, to be honest, something that we have been doing for a couple of years, change is our assessment is we follow a lot of task-based learning.
Mm.
So everything is connected with a mission at the end. So we simulate situations, students have to do something. It's actually that, and they use the grammar, vocabulary, and everything. We normally had that face-to-face classes. We didn't have groups bigger than 5 students, so it's easy to manage. Like, and the same would be if you have small groups in online classes. So I know it's difficult. I know teachers don't have they cannot make those kind of decisions. But I think it's something that we as teachers can push. Like, it's true that we have 20 or 30 students in a class, but if you're going to have a live session with 30 students, I don't know how beneficial it is,
Right.
like having them connected live, compared to a webinar where they just can chat, or even to a recorded lecture. So I don't know how beneficial it is to have live sessions with 30, with 100 students. Because
Right.
yes, and I take that also from students, because one student told me, like, I'm studying English, I'm doing it online, we are 16 students in the class, and I only participate twice a week.
Yeah.
So we have to find a way on breaking that big group into small groups. What I was proposing some people, obviously teachers that have the freedom and institutions that wanted to try it, is that the big classes just have some content pre-recorded, like plan weekly, and have some tasks to do during the week with a schedule, so they know that they have that thing to do on Monday, then on Wednesday, then on Friday, and they have until Sunday to present. And then you have some some small group sessions, with groups of 5, 6 students, in which instead of just lecturing, it would be more of asking questions, making them do the flip learning, like
Right.
actually using the grammar, the vocabulary, and controlling 5 students is easier. And they don't have to be there for 60 or 90 minutes. It could be really short sessions of 20 minutes or something like that, and then you split it up with the class. I know it's difficult, but that's something that I have been suggesting, and I have been trying it, it works. And that is a partial solution, I think. But obviously, as teachers, we cannot make that decision, because if our supervisors get to know that, and then say, why are you not helping that? But
Right.
I think it's something that we can push. I think it's something that we can actually do that.
Yeah, it's a challenge that we've had of what counts as teaching now. If I'm supposed to meet my students 3 hours a week, what does that look like? And so I think those ideas you brought up are great ones to kind of help break down large classes into manageable chunks in the best way possible in this context.
Yeah. So, and I know the idea is to have the. I don't know if everybody's so oblivious watching and not commenting, but the idea is that we come up with the craziest idea, get together and see which one would actually work, and actually try them. We have been working with teachers and students. At the beginning, most parents even believed that this was going to take a week or maybe 2 weeks, and then we will go back to normal. And
Yeah.
after 4 weeks here on lockdown, like, students and parents are realizing that um, pretty much this is going to go on for a long time. So
Yeah.
we're going to have a new normal,
Right.
and we have to get ready for that. Um, and I know there are web tools that we can use, but I think more than web tools, and so far we have mentioned like 3 or 4, pretty much, but we are working more on the way you design a class. If you know how to design, then tools, you can use any tool, depending on your context. But it's more important to know the methodology, and how you actually design a class for online learning, or what is, I think, is going to happen a lot here in Peru, at least, is blended learning.
And I think blended learning is a great way to go. And how would you define it?
Like half and half. It's like coffee. Half and half coffee. Like, part of it is going to be online, and then the other one, you will have your students. I don't think we're going to have big groups of students in classrooms, but they're going to be split. So that gives us an opportunity of try things like flip learning. I know there are some disadvantages, because sometimes students get to the class and they say, no, I didn't watch the video, I didn't do this and all that, and it takes time to get used to that. But there are also strategies like using gameful design, using game mechanics to motivate students to get into that, making it a team activity and not individual things, so everybody's pushing each other, and that would make your class more fluid. And then, even if, for example, you plan to do the class like part of the blended, you have the classroom session, but then that week, there is a new outbreak and everybody goes back to their homes, then you can do actually the same thing, but you do it online. But it's actually if you prepare that step by step thing of how you design your class.
Yeah, and and I think really kind of starting with a very clear understanding of what it is you need to achieve in your class. As teachers, a lot of what we do is based on instinct. Of I know what I need to cover, and I know how to get there, and I'll be right there with my students, twice, three times a week in order to interact. But with online, we lose that intimacy, and so we really need to have very kind of um, very tight design in our class to make sure that students understand where things are. And we use the backward design approach here, which for a lot of us, we think about the technology first. Okay, here's the technology I can use. Now what activity am I going to do? We say no, start at the end. Think about what's your objective, what do students need to do to meet that objective, and finally what tool is available for me to meet that that objective. And really kind of starting with what do you need to do, when do you need to do it, and what do students have to do to meet that objective. Then think about the technology last. Don't get caught up in trying to find the right technology when um, maybe email will be the best choice for you and your students for a particular activity. You don't need anything fancy. And just kind of responding to making sure that your objectives are specific, uh, thinking about how to measure your objectives. We spend a lot of time with faculty, writing. With teachers, we'll say, are your learning objectives measurable? Students will know the past tense of to be. Well, what do you mean no? Right? Words like if your learning objectives are students will know, students will understand, students will, you know, it's like, well, those are really vague. How do you test know? How do you test understand? But if you say students can define the word um, communication and give an example sentence, very clear, very specific, very measurable learning objective, and starting there, and making sure that the material is relevant. And now we're in a very different situation, and students may respond more to material that's more relevant to their lives right now.
That's also true, and that's why I also like task-based learning, because it has a clear objective, and you test the students on something that they actually have to do. So, like to give you an example, they have to go through a job interview. If you think about the grammar, there would be a lot of information questions. Maybe depending on the levels, you can actually customize the objectives, but there's things like personal information, like very basic things, the verb to be. Occupations or things, and you can even complicate it a little bit more. But if you that is the final objective, like the student who would be successful in a job interview, then it's clear, and then you can have like more specific objectives there, but you can assess in that way.
Right.
uh,
And maybe
and
oh, sorry.
no, you go on.
You might have students who in a traditional class, you may have worked through the workbook with them, worked through the textbook with them, but now things are just so different. You say, look, by the end of this semester, you need to create a business plan for tourism after the restrictions are lifted. What's tourism going to look like after this is all over? I want you to create an advertisement that encourages people to come back and visit our country. I want you to write a business plan for the tourism company to adapt, and giving things that are more relevant, and like you say, task based, group based.
Yeah,
You'll get a lot more interactive out of your students. They're harder to assess for sure, but that's where we can start to bring in rubrics, and setting up a rubric of how would you evaluate a business plan, how would you evaluate an advertisement for tourism, based on a set of standards that adhere to your class. And so if you look for more of those type of open-ended assessments, and students collect a portfolio. So it's like we have these activities through the class, and you're going to compile them all together into a unified product at the end of the semester, and that's what I'll grade. I'll grade that, the product of your work.
Yeah. So basically, we work like that. And you're mentioning a lot of things that include task-based learning, inquiry-based learning, or even project or problem-based learning. So those are things that we have to look into. There are some questions. Finally, a question. There you go. Check
Yeah,
this. Lisbeth, it
Elizabeth
says,
got a great
the
question.
school principals need to know what teachers and students are doing. Okay, so we should invite principals to these kind of webinars, but we have to do it in Spanish sometimes. Okay, teachers are being observed in these online sessions with students. Okay, really? Well, I know parents observe the session. I didn't know the principals. How will teacher observation assessment change? Ooh, I have a very well. I think it's kind of new. Like for example, assessment. Uh, Everybody knows TOEFL. So pretty much when you talk about TOEFL, they were this having everywhere in the world. They have these. Uh, how do they call authorized assessment centers? I think test centers. Now those centers are closed. And what is TOEFL doing? There is a new, how do they call it? TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition. It sounds like Microsoft Word, but so you can take TOEFL at home. And now, how do they actually see if you're not teaching? They have this software with artificial intelligence that you need to activate your camera, and it would detect things that you do and all that, and send some alerts if they suspect that you are cheating. So that is, I think, one extreme. But I think nobody would ever thought like an institution like ETS and well that TOEFL would be taken at home.
Yeah, when they started
But
offering things like that, we knew things changed. And I think also like with Lizbeth's question, what's interesting with digitally mediated instruction and having students online is so much data is being produced. One of my favorite examples is there's a course management system, Moodle, open source, open, free to use course management system, learning management system that you can use. And you can go in there and look at all the logs, when a student logged in, how long they spent on a particular page, what activities did they do. And so when a school administrator or principal says, well, what are you doing? You know, they come and observe us. We can show just data. Look, I posted this many times this week. Here are my emails. I put these announcements out. My students made this. I can, show you what they worked on and when. Even something like, Google Docs, I think is a really interesting example where if you set up a Google Doc for your students to do writing, you can see every single change that gets made in that document and when. So you can start to, point, to the documents like that and talk to your principal, talk to your school administrator and say, here's when my students are active. Yeah, I'm not having class at 10 in the morning like I used to because all my students work at night. We have the data. So, I'm shifting a lot of content to nights, shifting a lot of content to weekends because that's why I know my students are busy.
yeah, so it's basically not only using the tools, but the logs. Like most of the tools right now, because talking about business, like information is money. So,
Right.
and I mentioned this example before with some friends. It's like education is going to move like sports did. Like now, if they have their superstars and the players, they have all these fancy clothes that they wear during training and even when they play, and they know how much they have run, if they got tired, all that. And you can actually check that information in these learning management systems, and you can see how much work they have. So, but we need to access that information easily, and I think platforms are going to move there, which is machine learning thing and all that. And in terms of assessment, and they are asking for first grade and second grade
Yeah.
and kindergarten. Okay, so and then assessment is going to be there. Now, if we're talking about little kids, I'm I'm in well, actually, I'm in both sides. I'm a teacher and I'm a parent. More too, so I try to see in terms of how to do this well, so parents and students are satisfied. Now, for kindergarten teachers, for first and second grade teachers, little kids are very difficult. So it's very difficult to engage them online. It's true that they can watch videos on YouTube, but it's very important that you have live sessions, short live sessions, like 15 minutes, because they have to bond with you. That is one thing. But the most important thing, and Jeff already mentioned that, don't overload the kids. So the best thing that you can do is to plan that week. And even like I'm going to share what I'm doing with my kindergarten students is, for example, Monday we send them just a video, or it could be a video of recorder or a song or an activity with me or one of my teachers. And then we send the instructions for them to watch it, and we send instructions for the parents. And the instructions we are setting it in Spanish. So they just watch it, they do some activities, and they play with the parents. Okay. So the idea is that parents right now are having issues to have enough activities to entertain their kids. So what you have to think is take that into advantage. So instead of having the parent complaining with having too much work to do, give them things for them to have more time, like because they have to work, but they have more time to spend with the kids. And then on Tuesday, what we do is actually send them an activity that the kid has to do to prove that they actually learned something from that previous video on Monday. So it's like evaluating. It's not like anything fancy. If you want to complicate the parent's life a little bit, you can send them a checklist of what the kid is supposed to do. And then on Wednesday, we have a live session. So we have a 15-minute live session with the kids and in small groups. If we have 15, 20 students, tops, we split them in groups of 5. And then the hour on hour and a half, we have small groups. And then on Thursday, we do based on the live session. And then on Friday, we can have another live session just to check if they actually did, to bond with them. So it's actually not sending material, do it, sending material, do it, sending material, do it. It's a lot of work for the teacher. And in this way, it's going to be something more manageable for you, and it's going to be more manageable for students, and it's going to be more manageable for parents, especially with little kids. Yes, try to get parents involved, like not overloading them. So that's why you shouldn't be sending a lot of material. It's in doses. So you have to. So that's why we call it pre-work, quiz, class, and those kind of things. And it's working with little kids. Let's see what other questions we have. Sorry, Jeff, I there
No
because
worries.
I start with
That's
kids.
an area I'm not an expert in, and so you gave a lot of good advice. And Arturo also in the chat put up a response to Angela's question, so that's definitely worth checking out too.
Yeah, so screen recording, same time, and you post in Google Classroom. Yeah, so if well, this is like what we are planning to do too. Like you can have 100, 200 students like in Google Classroom in a virtual, but the live sessions should be in reduced groups, so small groups. So that means that you as a teacher could have like hundreds of students with material that they can work on their own, but then they need you for clarification, for feedback, and all that. And there is no way you can give feedback to 100 students in a live session of 90 minutes. So split them up.
And
Okay. Yeah,
I did
yeah.
jump to. So I apologize for my pronunciation in advance. Angela's question says, "What activities are best for beginner students? How can I start? My first time teaching online." And I've always had mixed feelings about not allowing the first language into the classroom. I've always found that like let the first language into the classroom, and if you have beginner students, you might want to have your course management system, however you deliver content, have it in Spanish, for beginner students, because you know if they have to navigate a lot of technology terms and interact with technology using English, it might just be confusing. So, maybe the structure of your class is in Spanish, and then, they're just being asked to produce content in English. Something like that I think is always great is, the website TED, the TED Talks. They've got a really great system where you can watch their videos and they have captions, but then they also have interactive captions where you can click on something and hear it over and over again. So maybe having students watch a video that is, captioned so they can read and listen, and then just write a brief summary with their limited English. Another website that I really like for beginners is Youglish, Youglish. And what Youglish does is you can put into the search a phrase, and then it'll search YouTube videos, kind of like news broadcasts, interviews, high quality videos, and find that particular phrase, and students can just listen to it over and over. So for example, if you put in the word water, WATER, you'll just hear, person after person, but you'll hear the Americans say water with that D, and you'll hear the British people say water with the T. In English, how's it going is a common expression. See, so a student could search for that in Youglish and just hear that pronunciation over and over. How's it going? How's it going? How's it going? So that could be a great activity for beginner students to listen for a particular phrase and then try to match that pronunciation. And then post maybe a short audio clip to WhatsApp or your course management system where they practice that pronunciation. That can be a great thing to do for beginner students.
Yeah, and then this is not my piece of advice, but it's actually what a student said. It sounds harsh, but I'm just going to quote the student. I really don't want to see the teacher face and the slides on my live session. I prefer the slides to be sent before the class. Okay, so and this is exactly a basic student, so he prefers to have the explanation prior to the lesson because he can pause it, repeat it, watch it again, and watch it again, and then in the class he can ask more questions. So especially for basic students, don't go. I wouldn't recommend explaining the grammar itself in the live sessions for many reasons. First and mainly, like the first is, like some people mentioned here, I have difficulty hearing you because of the connection. If for any reason internet is lousy where he is, he's going to miss part of the explanation. And then normally it's not like it's 1 second, he's going to miss parts of it, and then he's not going to be able to access it. One option is like, yeah, but I'm recording my live sessions and then students access it again. Yeah, it's true, but you would save a lot of time if they have that explanation prior to them, and then you just clarify difficult things or you make them practice in the live session. So and that is coming back to what we mentioned, like pre-work, sending something. There is some material that they can do on their own, and then some activities that you can do live. So it's having an or like it's, you have to organize your class in a different way. Even for little kids or adults, you cannot have like, I know, and books work like that. So most books work with the engage, and then they present, and then there is control practice, and we tend to focus that same structure for an English lesson. That is not going to work. So simple, it's not going to work because the setting is completely different. Like it's different.
Yeah, and, Arturo brings up a point here again. When you record a video, beginner students can watch that video over and over and over to make sure they understand. Where if it's a live class, like you're saying, Jota, they just may miss the content. And so, post the teaching online for them to watch, and then when you're having a live class, save it for interaction, save it for questions, save it for review, and really make the most of that, because nothing is worse than being in a live class and the students just sit there and listen. And the other thing I really recommend is, if you are posting videos, keep them short. Students they're just not going to sit through a 30-minute video where it's a PowerPoint slide and just a voice. It's hard for folks to maintain attention in that way. So, 10 minutes, really kind of tone it down, 10 minutes, direct and to the point. If you need a longer video, think about, 3 10-minute segments, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that. And you'll have a lot better success.
Yeah, so, and that would mean, maybe teachers are wondering, but if I do it that way, that means I'm going to move slow, less content. And it's pretty much what you mentioned at the beginning. It's that is the way it is going to be, and we have to focus on creating meaningful learning process. So if they can pass, it's not hard. So they are used to 10-second TikTok, they say. So 10 minutes are not going to be. Now, something that I prefer, I honestly, this is more of, I prefer to explain with a whiteboard rather than a PowerPoint. So, and honestly, it takes less time. So I pretty much take my whiteboard, record it. I can put the camera up, like cooking those, what is the name of that website? Tasty, that they just show hands and they are preparing food. You might explain.
Yeah.
Students and I just speak. So if you are in your regular class, so that saves a lot of time. Making a PowerPoint, editing, and they can explain all the text takes a while, unless you already have it. That's why I prefer using the board.
And I think you bring up a great point, is that students aren't looking for a polished video, they're looking for an authentic video. We hear students talk about that a lot, of just authentic. If it's you writing on a big piece of cardboard with a marker, but they're seeing you getting that material, hey, that's great. It doesn't have to be a very well produced video with lots of fancy things. Just target the material, convey it in the best way possible. If that's a whiteboard, hey, it'll work. It's a great solution. So don't overthink the technology in that everything has to be kind of perfect. Just make sure that it's relevant. The more relevant, the more authentic the video is, the more students will look past, the bad lighting and the lack of background music. They don't care. They really care about just learning from you.
Yeah, that's true. So, well, we have been talking for an hour, and people have been listening to us. It's incredible. I have the average, they were like 30. We got up to 40 at some point, and then, but the average was over 30. So I think this was a success. Well, unless they comment that they are sleeping there or they're not, like, but yeah, an hour and to discuss a lot of things. But I think it's I don't know if you have something to add. I know you should be busy. And what time is there over?
It's 10 o'clock in this part of the world.
Okay. So I really don't want, I told you we were going to go for 45 minutes, tops an hour, so I'm going to keep my word.
Teachers talk. That's what we do.
Yeah. So please, if you actually liked what you have seen, let us know in the chat, because if you actually didn't, then we won't do anymore. No. But if you think this kind of thing is this interaction, instead of just presenting you things, it's very useful. Just let us know. We can do another session, invite other people too. Well, they say very useful info. Thanks. I gotta go. So maybe Madalena probably is a mom. She has to take care of the kids, or no, she's planning classes for tomorrow. And then, so yeah, people are saying like they enjoy it. So let's see if we can do some other. For having a conversational time or playing, like teachers need to connect too. Yeah, there you go. It's I came late. Sorry. We will do another one now. Just for you to know, this has been recorded. That's what they told me. It's because this is recorded automatically, and then after I think 24 hours after this webinar, you will receive an email. That's why you register. You will receive an email, and you can watch this, and you can go back and forward and everything, and then I think it will be there for 10 days.
Great.
So just if you arrive late, you can check what we were talking.
And
At the beginning, we were just messing around and drinking water.
we should do this again because I would love to listen to other people's ideas. I would definitely show up as an attendee to listen. Because the more we share ideas, the more it's going to be easier for all of us to succeed. And I think it's a really difficult time for us, for students, but it's also a really great time for us to come together and use this as a way to push education forward a little bit. I think it's been interesting for me that even 2 months ago, I was hearing things that were impossible to do. It's going to take too long to put classes online. It's going to be very difficult to do this and this. Suddenly, we were able to do it in 2 weeks because behaviors changed, and that's the really challenging part: is changing behaviors in education. And we've done that a little bit. So if people are happy and healthy and things are back on track, we can use this as a way to experiment and try some new ideas that hopefully stick around in education. That's really my hope.
I think it's real. Well, and they have asked us for a demo lesson. Oh my God.
Whoa, pressure's on.
Okay. So
I like Gabrielle's idea of sharing experiences, getting a chance for people to just post what they've done. We have a group chat, a big old group chat.
I think, well, if we want to do that, that would be with a different tool. We can try another one because this one's a lot. I don't know if we can invite and connect somebody there. We'll try. We'll figure it out. There is technology for everything. So
we'll start with the activity. We'll work our way back to the technology.
Yeah. So we know what you want now. So we'll try. We'll see. I'll talk to Jeff. We will try to gather more people into the team and see who else wants to jump in and share their thoughts, and then get everybody in too. So don't worry. This is fun. I think we're creating a great community.
I think so. So next time, I'm hearing it next time.
Next time.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jeff Kuhn.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Jota. It's been awesome. It's always fun to work with you.
Well, we always have crazy ideas. That's good. So, okay, man.
All right. Take care, everyone. Stay safe and just keep teaching.
Keep teaching. If that is like Dory, just keep teaching.
Right. Just keep teaching.
There you go. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.